Out of the box, the Royal Enfield Himalayan is a great bike, but it can be improved in a number of ways. The bike behind me has had a number of modifications done to the motor, but today I'm not about motor modifications. I'm about trying to achieve lower revs at highway speeds. Let's see how I go. I'm just about to begin the process of removing the standard 15-tooth countershaft sprocket and replace it with the 16-tooth front sprocket. The idea behind this is that because the 16-tooth sprocket is one tooth larger, therefore the outside diameter of this sprocket travels further with each revolution of the motor. And because the countershaft sprocket travels further, it turns the rear wheel further with each revolution of the motor. At the moment, at 100 kilometers an hour, the motor is doing 5,200 RPM, and when I replace it with the 16-tooth sprocket, the motor will be doing less revs at 100 kilometers per hour. So that's the idea, and the reason I'm doing this is that it saves fuel because the motor isn't travelling as fast, and also it saves motor wear over the life of the bike. Shouldn't be too difficult job, pretty much straightforward. I guess not much can go wrong as long as the sprocket fits, and we'll see how it goes. So that was successful, wasn't that hard at all. Just needed to undo the locking tab, the 30mm socket with the air impact driver worked well. Be a matter of getting the socket off. I'll put the bike up on the centre stand, undo the adjusters at the rear and kick it forward, and then we'll see if we can change the sprocket over. So, not happy with that at all. I had to remove the rear axle, drop the wheel down, push it forward, and it wasn't difficult getting the sprocket on, but it's just way too tight. What I'll need to do is source a new chain, maybe one tooth or one link longer, and see where we go from there, because you can't ride it like that, it's just way too tight. So the moral of the story here so far is if you want to put on a 16-tooth front sprocket, it looks like you're going to have to put on a new chain as well. I think I saw a link in this somewhere. There it is there. I could put an extra link in it, but I really don't want to do that. Not long term. I might put another link into it just to try it, to see how it goes, to see whether it's going to be worthwhile me leaving it this way or not. But I would need to get a new link. I don't think I've got one in my kit here somewhere. I might, probably not. But yeah, another joining link might do it, but that remains to be seen. So for the moment, it's going back the way it was. I just went off to wash my hands, and two thoughts occurred to me. The first thought was that I should have worn gloves. The second thought was that maybe I can extend this slot a little bit further forward on the swing arm here. You can see how it's coming around this way. This axle is hard up against this end of the slot.
what I might do is have a look and see if I can, once I pull the axle out, I can see maybe I can take it forward maybe 5 mil. That's maybe all I'll need to do. So I think I'll give that a go before I go buying chains, and I can't see why it wouldn't work. 5 mil is probably enough. Just looking at the other side, I think it'll be okay. I'll check it all out, of course, but that might be the way to go. And we'll see where we go from there. But I think first of all I might need to go and have a beverage. Maybe a nice orange juice might be the go. I've just pulled the axle out and having a look at this slider, it will go back a long way further. And I had a look at the caliper, the brake caliper on the other side. There's enough adjustment to be able to get that to move forward. Only about 5 millimeters. Bit hard to see in there, but the caliper should slide forward, and I think that's okay. It'll just be a matter of taking this out. There it is there, and elongating around there. I think I'll give it a go. Here we are, the operation has been completed and the swing arm is all back together and the chain has been adjusted to the correct specifications. It was a relatively easy thing to do, but it was difficult to execute, if you know what I mean. It just needed to elongate the slots, but because the tube is hollow, you've got this side and the other side and that one as well. Doing the outside slot was fine, you could get to it. The inside was a little bit difficult because you're restricted with the tools that you can use. So once I ground out this side, I got a file and pushed it through and did the inside. So it took a while to do it, but it was simple, but it was just a little bit awkward to do and a little bit time consuming, but that's okay. So chains adjusted, ready for a ride. If you're thinking of putting on a 16-tooth front sprocket, it might work for you because it was a close thing. You don't need to get that rear wheel forward all that far to get the sprocket on, and I think other people online have done it, and it was close with me, and it might be close with your bike if you want to go down that track, if you know what I mean. So everything's good. The next thing I need to do now is take it for a ride and see how it goes. That'll be very interesting indeed. First ride with the 16-tooth sprocket. This is a bit of a steep driveway. It's not that steep, but it's steep enough for people to be a little afraid of coming down or going up for the first time. So the last time I went out on the Himalayan, I took notice of how much throttle and how much slipping clutch it needed. So we'll see how I go this time with the 16-tooth sprocket. No trouble at all. Let's go around here. Another beautiful Sunday morning. 2 in a row. Bring it on. Can't tell much difference really. I know, how are you? I'm well. First chance to see how it goes at 110 on the freeway. That's 100, pulling 4.8 maybe. 110. That's pulling 5. It hasn't taken all that much off. 110, 5 grand. I think before it was doing about 5.2. I'll have to have a look at the video I took before. But the acceleration seemed fine. I think if it came out of the factory, you wouldn't know. You'd say, oh, it needs a little bit of revs, few revs. Not all that great in the acceleration, never was. It's maybe just a little bit slower, but man, don't even notice it. Look, it has dropped the top end revs enough for me to keep it, I think. Still accelerating away, no problem. 4th gear, that is. Okay, 5th gear, once again, 5th gear, 4.8 at 100 kilometers an hour. Yep, 110, 5,000. Feels comfortable. Still pulling. My goal will be to get right up the top in 5th gear. And with a bit of luck, I won't come up against too many slower vehicles. It used to pull up in 5th gear. Normally, I'll get to this little pinch that happens just here, the revs die, and then the torque seems to kick in. I'll see if it's the same with this 16-tooth sprocket. I can feel that. The revs are dropping, but it's still pulling. Revs are dropping. 5th gear, CD, I'm doing 4.2, it's still pulling, it's still torquing, okay, and it's accelerating now. Okay. There's a nice left-hand corner just up here. It's signposted at 80. I'm in 5th gear, 80, pulling 3.8 revs roughly. It's good. Then there's a nice little right-hander and a left-hander down through this dip. Just leave it in 80, see how it pulls up here. Yeah, no problem at all. No problem. I am finding though that I'm riding a lot more in 4th gear, moving up through the gears, pulling away from the traffic lights and staying in 4th a little bit longer because it's not pulling as high, and I feel as if I don't need to change up. And then of course changing up the revs drop, so the punch that it had is not as punchy. But I'm okay to live with that. I've got other bikes that are way punchy. This one's just a different feel, and of course you ride to the bike. And this is a nice cruisy Sunday morning bike to ride. Traffic's flowing nicely, not a problem.
My initial concern with fitting the 16-tooth sprocket was that maybe the Himalayan wouldn't be able to perform as well as it did with the 15-tooth sprocket up the hills, but the torque is there, it's not a problem at all, and it just pulls up. The revs drop a little bit more quickly, but once you hit the peak torque band around about 4.2, 4.5, it pulls up no problem at all. My initial reason for fitting the 16-tooth sprocket was so that I'd be able to get lower revs at highway speeds. That's around about 100 kilometres an hour, 110 kilometres an hour. It reduced the revs by around about 200 RPM at those speeds. It doesn't seem a lot, however it is significant if you're going to be travelling for 2, 3, 4 hours on end, and it does make a difference. So my goal has been achieved, and I'm going to leave it on the 16-tooth sprocket just for now. Having said that, off-road trails requiring first or second gear going up hills might be a little bit of a different story, but we'll just wait and see how it goes under those conditions. I'd recommend the sprocket, the 16-tooth sprocket, if you'd like to reduce your revs at highway speeds, but I can't say how it would go with the standard motor. So if you've been able to put a 16-tooth sprocket on your standard Himalayan, maybe make a comment down below and let us know how it's going for you. We'd be very interested to know that. So I hope this video has been helpful for you, and if you enjoyed it and you found it useful, you might want to give us a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe down below. That'd be great. So thanks for watching. Go well.